All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. A very warm welcome on behalf of Triometric to our webinar. We really appreciate the time that you're spending with us. And it's a great opportunity for us to kind of share with you something we're actually very passionate and excited about, and that's our new version 7 of the Web Services Analyzer product. I'm Jonathan Boffey. I'm the Business Development Director for Triometric, and I have with me my colleague Alex Beat, who's one of our Senior Technical Consultants. And today we're going to take you through hopefully kind of a good introduction to our version 7 technology. I'm going to kind of talk at a high level about a lot of the features we've been working on literally over the last 18 months or so. And for some of them I'm going to talk a little bit more detail, perhaps a little bit of a deep dive on some of these areas to explain them a little more. So that'll kind of take, I guess, between 15 and 20 minutes to kind of talk you through that. Then I'm going to hand over to Alex, and he's going to provide us with a live demonstration of the version 7 system. And then to kind of wrap things up, we're going to come back and talk about how you can kind of get access to the system, how we packaged it up. And then finally, we'll kind of finish things up with a question and answer session. Now, unfortunately, the only people that get to talk are kind of me and of course, Alex. So that means that if you want to have any questions as you go along or whatever, or even at the end, please use the question panel on your client, GoToMeeting client system to submit those questions. And we'll kind of pick them up at the end and hopefully cover off as much of them as we can and in as sort of forthright way as possible. Okay, so you know, the first and most visible thing about our version 7 system is its user interface. You know, I have to say, I think it's really, really sexy. It's contemporary, it's got a brand new look and feel, it's kind of based on HTML5, very current technology. And this kind of new style and feel, it starts all the way from the login, it goes through kind of the home page, the report menus, and it really is such a kind of uplifting feeling to see it. There's lots of things, and I've just kind of cherry-picked some of the features that kind of come through with this new user interface. So things like being able to search on report names. If I've got a report on, I know, revenue, and want to know which reports in the system are on revenue, I can type that into a search box, and it'll kind of list out in all the subfolders all the reports with the word revenue in the name. You know, I've got breadcrumb navigation and so on. It's just about making life lots easier. And a couple other things, and I'm literally just cherry-picking things. Alex is hopefully going to kind of show you a lot more of this stuff, and you'll get a real feel for it. But things like filter editing, we've now got a sort of drag and drop and the ability to duplicate conditions to build complex filters. We've introduced a new operator called in. So if I want to build a simple filter, which kind of just maybe I can build a small list of things, and if a certain dimension is in that list of names, maybe it's an agent name, and I've built a list of agent names, I can use that to kind of personalize, say reports or something of that order. And then scheduling, we've built a new scheduling wizard for defining new schedules. It's actually quite important because we kind of see dissemination of the information out to people in your organizations beyond kind of the Trio users, the kind of wider business community. They're probably rely on scheduled reports and delivery of them. So the ability to simplify that creation and delivery process is actually quite important. So say Alex is going to take you through the stuff. You'll get to visualize a lot more of it as we go along. In terms of non-visual things under the hood, let's call it the plumbing. We've put an awful lot of effort in here. It might tend to be a little less visible, but it's extremely important, and there's some major changes going on here. Perhaps the first and foremost thing is the shift to Oracle 12. Oracle 12 is the number of features we could talk about with regard to Oracle 12c would probably take up the whole webinar. But in terms of just picking out a couple of things, you know, there's things like advanced index compression there, which are going to impact the reporting performances and even some of the analytic performances. You know, these are positive things. There's underlying support for JSON, and we've actually built quite significant JSON support on top of this, and I'll come back and talk about what we've done there in a few minutes. And then kind of, not really for version 7.0, but more for perhaps 7.1, we're building kind of an opportunity to take on board some of the things like the in-memory database features, column-centric databases, etc. And these are likely to revolutionize some of the way we kind of handle and manage the data processing. So it's not just all about Oracle. One of the things we've worked heavily on is instrumenting our own product. So we're kind of in the performance monitoring business. Well, guess what? We're kind of performance monitoring our own technology. Those instrumentations kind of are gathered, collected into the database system and are reporting through the standard GUI. So that allows us to kind of track how your systems are behaving and so on, and optimizing the performance. And then there's a couple of other things. I'm going to call them the two multis. This is multi-manager, the scalable architecture, and then the multi-tenant, which is this software as a service-based reporting. I'm going to talk about those in just a little bit more detail. Firstly, the scalable architecture. This is the multi-manager architecture that we've been kind of talking about. This has taken us a long time to kind of put together and perfect. For all of you out there that have the ever-growing problem of extra traffic, I mean, it's always nice to go to extra bookings, but of course it's the extra search traffic that really is loading the systems. Meta-search might be responsible for part of that, but broadly, you know, once you get up to, and this varies between different installations and different XML schemas, but broadly when you get up to this kind of 50 million requests per day level, you're really pushing the capabilities of a single server manager system. So kind of to kind of support this, you know, growth beyond 50 million and be able to work with you, we've put together this multi-manager system. So what we did was we took the standard manager system and with its three kind of core processes that it does, which is XML extraction work, data management and storage, and reporting. And we took out the really heavy piece, the XML processing piece, and created that as a new slave manager system. And then we put together the ability to kind of spread traffic across multiple slave managers so that we can really scale out and build systems probably up to the order of kind of like 500 million requests per day. And this is part of an evolution. We're not going to stop here. This is kind of the first stage in this multi-manager architecture. In the future, we're expecting it to kind of grow. We're going to put in a dynamic traffic load balancing system, which will kind of give it more of a clustering feel. And with that, you'll get obviously improvements in availability and other things. So lots more still to come. Then the multi-tenant or software as a service monitoring system. This is for those people that are in distribution. You know, you've got a lot of suppliers, a lot of their products, their services are coming through your distribution, your booking engine, your system. We're clearly monitoring all of the traffic that goes through that. If we have a capability which kind of has the ability to separate out that traffic so it's relevant for particular suppliers, maybe it's people searching for products they have in particular destinations or whatever the split criteria are, but we have this capability to provide that split portion of the total traffic data and put it into a separate scheme and make that available through a portal for them to log in and basically access that business level data. This becomes a real opportunity and a real game changer in terms of the kind of level of service that you can potentially offer as a distributor to your suppliers. This is ready in situ in Fairlogic's data center in Miami, operating with their NDC Express product. This is a product that's flight distribution using this XML standard from IATA. And it's, you know, there's a login capability there for a whole range of carriers, including some major North American names, and that's kind of the opportunity perhaps this brings. So moving on and away from the plumbing and back into kind of sharing our journey in terms of improving visualization and reporting. You know, we've got all this data there. We want to be able to get insight from it and be able to find that insight in a very comfortable way. So for those of you who can remember all the way back to kind of, I guess, the changes at the beginning of version 6, we introduced some new charting technology, which was really quite a big step forward then. We've really built on that. And these small changes like adding stack columns into combination charts so you can superimpose lines and other things can really enrich the way that we report. But there are new chart types to kind of share too, so things like scatter charts, which are fantastic for picking out distributions of, I don't know, maybe it's particular times, seasons against particular destinations. You know, you can kind of imagine the distribution of that and picking out the outliers and understanding how perhaps you want to look at them and deal with them. And then things like area range charts. Hopefully Alex will show you some of these examples. This is a fantastic, it's like a ribbon chart. It shows a sort of maximum, minimum with the area between shaded in. And then heat maps, a fantastic way to visualize things. What you need to do is you need to work with us to build heat maps. We actually build a pivot table with your data for a specific business report, and then we can superimpose a heat map on that pivot table. Let's say, you know, come and talk to us about that, but this is an opportunity to kind of add visualization. So it's not all about visualization. Some of it's about just processing the data a little bit more. And again, this is a journey. The first thing that you're seeing are, if, for example, you're running comparative reports and you said, I don't know, revenue from agents from last week to this week, you might want to see the percentage change, the actual change, and the percentage of their contribution to the sort of total revenues and so on. So we've added support for those sorts of things. And then kind of more thinking towards 7.1 and our future plans, we're looking at adding things like trend lines, so a level of predictiveness into the data. At the moment, we just have a kind of a global map, but maybe more regional maps for different continents, etc. There's also, kind of the idea of doing some sort of visual data mining using three-dimensional charts and so on. There's some possibilities there. And then building on the additional measurements I was talking about, things like percentage change and comparative charts, but maybe having some simple functions to process some of the columns already in a report. I mean, an example would be, let's say I had a column with sort of some counted searches by agent, and I've got another column which is a count of bookings by agent. It'd be great if I can simply build a new derived column which divides one by the other to give me a look to book by agent. So this is the kind of thing we're kind of looking forward to doing. So there's also, underlying all of this is data. Bringing data in, taking data out of the system. One of the things we've been working on recently is the opportunity to bring richer data into the system, in particular time series data. I think most of you are probably familiar with the concept of kind of having a sort of lookup data. So I've got a set of property codes and I want to look it up into the property name and maybe the country, etc. That's something we kind of refresh typically, or maybe on a daily basis, something like that. But that's different type of data. That's sort of relatively static data. The time series data, we're talking about something with a timestamp in it. Maybe it's a stream of information from a payment system or a booking platform. But basically taking that data and there's timestamps within it and merging it using the timestamps within our data to produce a newer, richer, complete data set which we can then report on. Also improving things in terms of data processing. We've got this capability now to actually analyze what the IATA is the airline organization that promotes all the standards within the industry. The new distribution capability, or NDC, is the new XML standard for flight distribution, and you will see this growing in, I guess, in uptake quite considerably over the next couple of years, and it will eventually replace the standard EDIFACT GDS type process. We've already built a set of rules to track shopping and ticketing and various ancillary things. So if you've got any connectivity into the airline industry, understand we've got some rules that can maybe help you understand and track that traffic already in place. I'm going to talk about the cloud and JSON support in a second on a separate slide, but before I move off the slide, I'm just going to finish off and really talk about the export side of things and what we're looking at. I mean, the system already has some basic capabilities to export data out, but we're looking to understand more about what the requirement is. So I guess there's kind of a, come and talk to us about it, share with us your requirements. We're kind of cognizant that you have BI systems out there that want data fed into them, and it's not just about what the Trio system delivers. So maybe these things are like exporting out to cloud-based reporting systems. I mean, that could be anything from a sort of Pentaho, a ClickView, or Elasticsearch, something like that. Feeding stuff up into the cloud. Maybe it's you've got an application you're building, you want to do some form of pull, and you need a requesting API within our technology to kind of pull data out into your system. Or maybe it's about connecting our data set into a range of target data systems, data warehouses within your organization at kind of more of a, let's say, an enterprise level. And if you're kind of trying to do that sort of stuff in real time, and you probably, if it's an enterprise level, you've presumably got an enterprise budget. But maybe something like Oracle's Golden Gate would be the right fit for that type of system. So I said I'd come back and talk about cloud. Very important for certainly some organizations now are already halfway into the cloud and migrating. Some people perhaps are almost even further down the line than that, and others perhaps are just considering it. The challenge of moving to cloud and capturing the data is that we no longer have sort of private access to the switch. That's kind of disappeared, so our traditional sniffing packet capture mechanism is kind of compromised. So we've replaced that with a thing called the packet capture agent. So what happens is this agent sits next to your booking engine on the host. So we've kind of moved from the network switch onto the host, so it becomes host-based. That agent, as I say, sits next to your booking platform within the virtual instance that becomes the thing that you spin up in the cloud. So that's very convenient, because if you spin up, demand-driven multiple instances of your booking platform to handle the load, we automatically get the packet capture agent kind of following that process. So the packet capture agent simply grabs the packets from the host and feeds it into a monitor. The monitor passes to manager with kind of business as usual, and that's kind of the core support. And the other area in terms of capture, and we mentioned this before, is kind of JSON. For those of you less familiar with JSON, it's very similar to XML. It's kind of a lightweight version of it to exchange structured data. It's been particularly popular, I guess, with mobile applications in kind of RESTful protocol scenarios. But we're now seeing it being taken up by major OTAs, Expedia being certainly one to mention, as part of their kind of business as usual means of connection. So what we've done is on top of the Oracle underlying support, we built a significant module, rules processing engine, that kind of mirrors what we've traditionally done in XML. So you've now got the capability to have kind of JSON rules, which do extractions in the same way that you might do from the XML, and they can kind of all merge up and appear in the same schema, and you can report them in a common way. So this is it's a data-centric, exactly a data center-centric instrumentation of this JSON traffic. It could be part of your mobile channel. Understand this is quite different from the sort of instrumentation of a mobile app, which is much more about button presses and a lot less about business level data. Okay, but this is a great step forward, and it kind of provides a lot of future proofing for many of you. I'm just going to finish off and talk a little bit about services. I mean, everything I've been talking about is all about product. And clearly, without you can improve the product, but you kind of also need to improve the services that support that product. So one of the first things that we've kind of done over the last 18 months or so is really put together agents which sit alongside our monitor, alongside our managers in your data centers, and they automatically track the health of those monitors and managers, and they report back directly into a system that's tracking information within our support center. And then alerts get displayed up on a dashboard, literally for our support group to kind of track and monitor on a at least the system will run on a 24/7 basis. And we actually can offer you 24/7 support based on the back of this too. So it isn't just about the support team, it's also about some of the technology that allows you to interact with them. We've also introduced, kind of as part of this sort of version 7 overall push, and I think you've already migrated to this, but it's the Triometric Assist system. So it's the latest in online support technology. It allows you to register any issues that you've got. It allows you to collaborate with those issues, understand what the status of them is, and so on, all the way through to obviously resolution and closure. And so the final slide for me really is to kind of remind you about kind of some of the services we can provide for you that goes hand in hand with this version 7 system. We've got, I don't know, over a dozen years in sort of kind of big data, if that's the right way of putting it. We've got 7, 8, 9 years within the travel industry. We have skills to get access to data, prepare data, aggregate it. Always in a combination, sort of within an environment in which we're trying to understand the travel industry, the kind of the levers and so on that you need to think about when you kind of want to build reports. So I think we have a great multidisciplinary team that can really help you kind of accelerate your use of the data and kind of get those business reports together and drive the ROI that I think is kind of so important. So I'm going to pass over to Alex, who's kind of happily taking control, and hopefully he'll be able to share with you a very useful run through of the version 7 product.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Beat, as Jonathan said, a technical consultant here at Triometric, and I'm going to show you around the new V7 interface and demonstrate some of the improvements. Jonathan's already given an overview of most of these improvements. As you can see, this is the new contemporary look, and this runs throughout all pages. So if you're going into my user interface, you'll see a common theme. And going back to the main screen, and also going into the more common or more commonly used report menu, all a very similar, easy to use interface. The report menu, the first superb feature is a search. We've never had this before, the ability to be able to search for a report. So I've searched for V7, and then I get the list of V7 reports that I wish to show. The report menu, as well as having the search feature, also has new icons. You can see the icons here, so dashboards, management reports, and analysis reports, and the key up the top. You can also see that for alerts and for schedules, the icons have been made a lot more clear, so it makes it more obvious that a schedule or alert has been set. And many of the sort of less common functions, such as moving, copying, changing permissions and deleting, have now been hidden under an actions menu for each report. And when I open a report and quickly draw it, you should see immediate improvements. You can see that to enhance the visualization, charts now utilize the horizontal real estate more efficiently, and also the color schemes have been amended for greater contrast but between the chart series. And in fact, what I've done is I've got a very similar report in version 6 that I can flick to just to show you the difference. So this is an example of the same fields within version 6, but just changing the color scheme and the horizontal real estate usage. Excuse me. There have also been some changes to the chart types. In fact, this chart here shows an example of a stacked column chart being used in a combo or combination chart. So we've got the stacked bar chart and the line on one. I can show you an example of a scatter chart. So if I come down here, go to the scatter and quickly draw that. So this is now available as standard, and of course this allows you to see extreme values at a glance. This is just showing revenue and searches by customer. Another new chart type is area. So let's go to the report menu and just go to V7 area and draw that. There we go. And this chart shows, in this particular chart, shows the difference between the number of days in advance that customers book and search hotels, with the shaded area representing the customer thinking time in days. And so, as I say, this has now been rolled out as standard in version 7. And the other sort of major change to charting is some advances in percentage change and showing differences in change. So now, excuse me, this report shows the day-on-day percentage change and the actual change in revenue by agent on a day-on-day basis. The new change measurements can simply be added by pressing the percentage sign against any measurement. You just click on the measurement. You can select percentage change, percentage total, or change, which is the actual change, and display them on a chart. As Jonathan has already said, we're also developing the pivot tables and heat maps, which can be delivered to you now, but you currently need our support. But soon you'll be able to create them yourself. Going back to the original report that I showed you, the V7 hourly performance, we've made some really big changes in filters. So if I click on this filter and show you, as Jonathan's already stated, we've got a new operator, the in operator, and here you can see how we've used it to use in booking or search. So we're looking at bookings or searches in this report, and of course this means that it saves you from creating lots of or conditions. You now have the ability to be able to search for filterable values. So what I mean by that, if I want to have a condition of URL, I just type URL here, select it, and I can then say starts with, let's say, XML. And of course, if I didn't want that to be an AND, which it by default will be when I add a new condition, I can now drag it and simply place it in the OR. Another new feature is to duplicate the conditions. So duplicate this, I can then make a small amendment. So let's say I want it to start with API. And again, if I want, I can then drag that into the OR as well. All of these changes, of course, are designed to make it easier and faster to create your filters for your report. I shall cancel out of this and then just come on to this, come back to the report. A feature that I've been using during this demo is breadcrumbs. And as you can see at the top here, these are visible on most of the new pages, and of course they let you know exactly the location and the name of the reports you are using, and are also useful for quick navigation. So as you've seen, by clicking on reports, I can go back to the report menu. Now the last new feature I'm going to show today is the new scheduler. Now for those of you who have used the scheduler, sometimes it can be a little confusing. Very flexible, of course, as it still is, but what we've done is we've created a wizard. So the first page, the way that you actually create a schedule is very similar to that you did for version 6, and that is by clicking on the scheduler icon to the right-hand side of the report. The first page basically gives you the status of the schedule, the type and the time of the latest data in the database, and 99% of the time you just click on Next. The frequency and range page allows you to select the frequency. I'm going to choose every X hours, and it then gives me the controls that I need to finish this frequency, so every hour. When do I want the schedule to start? I'll start it from tomorrow. I can just change that to 2 o'clock. And you can either end it for never, so it always continues, or you can select a date. Lastly, generate the report because it's hourly for the previous hour, and click on Next. And this is although quite simple, quite a good change for our scheduler in the fact you can now add export actions on the fly. So you can either, select exactly as you used to for setting up export actions, email in Excel format to jb@trio.net and call it a name, JB, or you can simply select a predefined condition and just add it to the schedule. And that's it. Click on Save and you're done. I think you'll find that it's a lot more simple than it used to be before. That's the end of my whirlwind tour, and I'd now like to send you back to Jonathan to just finish off this webinar.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Hopefully you found that a particularly useful kind of whirlwind tour. In fact, I kind of feel like the overview's been a bit of a whirlwind too. We kind of compressed everything into half an hour. We thought that was probably a fair thing to do. The last and final thing really for me to talk about before we kind of go into a Q&A session is just talk about kind of how we're delivering things. Version 7's been through a beta program. It's been very well received. We've had really good comments back about it. We're actually very proud of that. It will finally be launched from, I guess, 1st of May, which I think is on the weekend. So I guess Friday is kind of the nominal day where the final cut gets done. We are kind of, because it's a major upgrade, there's major work done, and normally there are fees associated with these upgrades. What we've tried to do here is kind of package something up and just charge a nominal fee. So kind of all the Oracle licensing pieces that we need to take care of, licensing on the major developments, planning and installation of the upgrade, and actually doing all configuration testing bits and pieces, along with some version 7 classroom-based training for a couple of users. I'm kind of putting that into a package and just looking for a nominal fee to kind of cover that. Just to be clear, there are some things which we haven't included within that package, and that's really the JSON module. That's actually a major piece of work. Not all of you perhaps require it, so you don't probably want to necessarily invest in it at this point. But it's separately licensed module, and we can obviously have a sensible conversation around that. And then the other areas just to talk about is for components which basically get multiplied out and increase, if you like, the support burden for us, there are additional support fees. So for the cloud, this includes obviously the packet capture agent, and it's an additional kind of thing running out there. For the slave managers within the multi-manager architecture, and similarly when the dynamic traffic load balancer system comes along, that will operate on a separate server too. These are all things we need to manage separately, so there are some additional charges there. Just finally, I want to mention we are obviously very keen for everyone to kind of think about this migration, and preferably do more than think about it, actually, kind of push the button. One of the things we want to offer here is for everybody who kind of signs up for version 7 is that we will throw in, if you do it before the 30th of June, we'll throw in an extra day of consulting. So this is kind of a full day. We'll come on site, we'll sit down with your people, we'll go through what you're doing with the system, what reports you're running, look at perhaps some other reports, maybe tweaking some things. Just generally, it's kind of a sort of opportunity to kind of interact with us and get a feel for kind of the sorts of things we can do in terms of improving the reporting that you're kind of running. So that's really everything we've kind of got to say. Hopefully you've kind of got a feel for something we're actually really excited about, and I think will hopefully be a great platform going forward, which we're going to build on even further. I just want to finish off and really look at any questions which are arising. Alex, have you seen any questions?
We've had some people asking for the slides, which I've responded to.
We've had some people asking for the slides, so we can send you the slides if you wish. But we should also be publishing this this webinar on our website, and we'll send you through a link to it as well.
Yes, we'll certainly make the slides available. That's not a problem. I've got one other question here, which is what constitutes a nominal fee? Okay, I should have kind of predicted that one. The nominal fee we're talking about is actually 10,000. That's kind of the base fee for providing that package. Beyond that, if you already have a multi-manager system and there are actually multiple components to handle in the installation process, there will be some slight uplift in that base fee. But other than that, that's kind of the basic idea. Okay. So another question's come in. Is there better browser isolation in version 7, i.e. multiple reports in separate tabs?
We haven't changed that functionality as of yet, but it's something we would have to put onto our roadmap. It doesn't sound as if it's too difficult, but it's something we'd have to get and ask our dev team. Okay.
Okay. That appears to be it in the way of questions. And it's probably time too. So on that note, can I thank everyone for taking the time out to join us. We really appreciate that you have invested the time with us. We hope we found it useful, and hopefully we're going to have some conversations about B7 upgrades in the very near future. On that note, thank you very much, everyone.